iniciação científica, extensão, na área de objetivo de desenvolvimento sustentável e temas livres. No início da parte da tarde, teremos também uma palestra sobre experiências exitosas da UEMANET, a ser proferida pela professora doutora Ilka Márcia Ribeiro de Souza Serra. Na sequência, convido a todos a participarem da palestra treinamento a ser proferida pelo professor Edson Canella, diretor no Brasil da empresa Educational Testing Service, que promovem o exame de proficiência TOEFL, que é um exame de inglês que é muito requerido pelos editais, os principais editais que fomentam a mobilidade internacional. Feito isso, eu gostaria de dar início à nossa primeira programação do dia, iniciando pela sessão internacional, e gostaria de convidar, gostaria também, inicialmente, dentro dessa sessão internacional, mais uma vez e em público, agradecer o entusiasmo da participação, né, dos nossos docentes e convidados que irão compor as bancas de avaliação, orientação das apresentações que serão realizadas durante toda esta manhã. Estaremos trabalhando em 3 sessões. 2 sessões estarão no sistema remoto, online, e uma sessão presencial, onde eu me encontro neste momento. Então, feito isso, eu gostaria de convidar as professoras Lígia Chaica, professora Cláudia Costa e professor Bruno Pompeu, que estarão nos conduzindo à sessão presencial neste momento. Ana Luísa, por favor. Eu gostaria de apresentar a todos a Ana Luísa. Ana Luísa, ela é discente do Bacharelado de Relações Internacionais, está cursando o 1º semestre, e a Ana Luísa irá fazer a apresentação do currículo dos professores que irão compor a nossa banca de avaliação e orientação.
E dos colegas do curso de Relações Internacionais. Bom dia aos professores. Então, eu gostaria de começar a sessão internacional apresentando os professores que aceitaram o convite para estar aqui com a gente hoje e para nos avaliar nesse momento. Bom, a professora Lígia possui graduação em Ciências Biológicas pela Universidade Estadual do Oeste do Paraná, mestrado em Genética e Biologia Molecular pela Universidade Federal do Rio Grande do Sul e doutorado em Genética Biológica e Biologia Molecular pela Universidade Federal do Rio Grande do Sul. Atualmente é professora adjunta da Universidade Estadual do Maranhão, docente do curso de pós-graduação em Recursos Aquáticos e Pesca e do programa de pós-graduação da Rede Bionorte. Seja bem-vinda, professora. A professora Cláudia Costa é mestre em Engenharia do Ambiente pela Universidade de Trás-os-Montes e Alto Douro, Portugal, especialista em Engenharia Ambiental pela Universidade Selma, São Luís, graduada em Engenharia Ambiental e dos Recursos Naturais pela Universidade de Trás-os-Montes e Alto Douro, assessora técnica da Assessoria Especializada na Articulação dos Objetivos de Desenvolvimento Sustentável da Universidade Estadual do Maranhão. Seja bem-vinda, professora. E Bruno Pompeu, graduado em Relações Internacionais, mestre em Engenharia de Produção e especialista em Operações Portuárias, experiência internacional em desenvolvimento de produtos e implantação de projetos de engenharia portuária, ator de teatro musical e estudante de filosofia aplicada, pai, marido e esportista. Seja bem-vindo, professor. Eu gostaria de agradecer, em nome da Superintendência de Relações Internacionais Em nome do curso de Relações Internacionais, a presença de todos vocês aqui hoje é muito importante para a gente. Por um acaso, a primeira apresentação é a minha, então eu vou logo ficar aqui para apresentar. Eu acho que eu só primeiro slide. Certo. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to me to be here today presenting our work paper made by me, Ana Luisa Luiz, and Paulo Vitor Arush, and supervised by the Professor Thiago Alisson Jesus Cardoso, about the importance of the Itaqui Port Complex to Maranhão, challenges and perspectives in light of the Sustainable Development Goals. So, this paper results from a technical visit to the Itaqui Port Complex by the International Relations Bachelor's degree of Maranhão State University. And this work aims to highlight the port complex importance for the development of the state of Maranhão. Moreover, it reflects the possibilities and economic and social environmental challenges in light of the CDGs. And here there is a photo of our class's visit to the Itaqui Port Complex on September 5. That was an amazing visit, and it was very important for us to see what Maranhão was doing at the port situation, because Port de Itaqui is a very important port complex, not only for Maranhão, but up to Brazil too, because we export so many things for this by this port, and it's very important for us to visit this kind of places because we are international relations bachelor degrees is very important to us. And this is the background of our work. With studies for its creations has already begun in 1949. The port of Itaqui is a mirror of the growing development of Maranhão's commodity production and, consequently, of its economy. However, this economic growth still does not mirror the necessary social development for Maranhão's population. This scenario can and should change, especially in light of the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And our methodology was a literature review and a cross-reference in economic and social data from EBGE and EMAP. And there are the results from our work. Maranhão is the second largest state in Northeast in territorial dimensions, with agriculture, especially for sport, as one of the main economic activities that sustain the wealth of Maranhão. There is a very strong need for an efficient way to drain this abundant production, and for this, the port of Itaqui arises. This port is considered the second best in the world for large ships, due to the amplitude of its tides and the privileged location, and has as another factor for the great competitiveness, a multimodal efficiency. Even in a scenario of global economic recession, the port of Itaqui has broken successive records. This is related to the advancement of agribusiness in the country, especially Maranhão, which is increasingly profitable due to the red dollar, implying economic stimulus to the sector. These figures and the arguments presented here show the privileged position of Maranhão in Brazil situations and war situations, because we have a very large agribusiness situation, we have a very large port, so we obviously have a very privileged situation in this way. However, it can be seen that this privileged position of the state is contradicted by the unsatisfactory socioeconomic condition. In other words, the economic development provided by agriculture, allied to the presence of a port of so many opportunities, is not transforming into social development for the population of Maranhão. The right complex port activities integrate what Wittgenstein called the risk society, a concept developed after the nuclear events of Chernobyl, 1984. complex of industrial economic activities is accompanied by the potential for transnational impact, and the society organizes itself in response to the risks um, inherent to its socioeconomic structure. That means, however, with economic cannibalization of the risk triggered through it, industrial society produces the true situation and the potential and the political potential of the rich society. So we can understand that the rich society, that concept that I have just presented for you, presupposes globalization. If we understood globalization as a transnational and global productive system, made possible through the opening of markets and technological development. However, globalization cannot be perceived as a historical imperative that necessarily leads to the evolution of our economies. And expertise has shown that the process of economic integration of regions with distinct levels of development produce concentration of income and wealth. I mean that we understand that the port activity and is the risk society. The risk society presupposes globalization, and globalizations, of course, presupposes concentration of income and wealth. And understanding that these companies and the port activities have their own rationality, focus on the profit, it's necessary that they stay through the public policies, equates economic growth with the social development. And we cannot condemn the rationality of the company, of course, but we can and should define parameters and limits for this rationality. And these limits in our work is the population, is the well state of the population. However, we understand that is still a mismatch between the numbers of the economic activity and the social indicators of the state. Is still unsatisfactory and aggravated by the precarious and criminal land ownership reality, aggravating conflicts and social environmental war. So we understand that in Maranhão, there is still a mismatch between our economic situation, because we have a very large agribusiness, we have a very good port, and our social development situation. We're not translating our economic situation into development for our people. So the people are not seeing what we are doing. The people are not seeing the economic development into their lives. So we have to change it and very fast. And because of situations like like these in many others around the world, the United Nations has created 17 global development goals, the UN Agenda 2030, to combat inequalities without losing sight of globalized development or even sustainability. From the perspective we presented, some CDGs fit perfectly in the situation, and we are going to present these CDGs. The CDG 1, no poverty. Overcoming poverty is still a challenge for Brazil, despite the advances made in the first 15 years of the century. But to overcome this situation, the population must be empowered through proper titles or qualified insertion in the productive system. So we have to give to lead the people to have land, to have work, and to have education to change the situation of poverty. It's a very, very, very hard stuff to overcome, but we are trying to do this, and especially with the UN 17 development goals. The CDG 8, decent work and economic growth, is necessary to introduce the poorest people to the labor market in a rural sector, giving them a decent job and contributing to the growth of the economy, especially in the consumer sector. This CDGs is also related with the CDG 1, because we are talking about overcome the poverty, and we have to talk about give the people work to overcome this poverty. So it's a very, very special CDG to think about and to practicate. And the CDG 10, reduce inequalities, the indicators of poor activities is an enable point to the economic growth with the state, but it is still necessary to advance in the articulation of public policies that promotes industrialization with environmental responsibility, attraction of the investments, and qualified insertion of Maranhão cities in the production chain. So we have a very good port. We have a very large agribusiness situation, but our people are not qualified in sourced in this situation. So we have to give the Marian people opportunities to be into this process of economic growth of Maranhão. We are growing very hard every single day in the economic situation. We see this with the Porto de Itaqui and with the agribusiness, but we are not putting the people to work together, and we're not putting the people in this situation. So we have to change the situation, have to overcome these inequalities to get Maranhão in a better situation. Uh, and for conclusion, we must understand that once for all that globalization works to the benefits of those who commands the technology vanguard. So in this sense, the port of Taki has a key role to play because it signals to Brazil and to the world that the strategic importance of Maranhão. This results in political and economic benefits that must be translated into public policies of economic insertion of the native population, as well as the dynamization of the state's economic by taking advantage of a rarely consolidated logistic corridor. So we have a port, we have agribusiness, but we are still very in a very hard way to walk to in a situation of more equality in our state. So we have a very consolidated logistic system, but we have to introduce the people in this system. So this is the references of our work. And thank you for paying attention in our presentation. And thank Paulo for doing this work with me. It was a very good work, and I learned so much of this work. Thank you, guys.
Hey, good morning
Good morning.
and congratulations, Ana Luisa. That's a very compelling presentation. Congratulations. This subject is so rich. It's really flourishing in the way you bring two subjects that are on concept. They're in contrasts. So I am a specialist at port operations as I have been introduced by. So I do work at the port at the area of Port of Itaqui, but I have also worked abroad within port operations and projects, also at the state of São Paulo, in the Port of Santos as well. And this dichotomy of port and city and economic growth and social development, this is not unique to our state, to our reality. So it's really a matter. It's inherent to the complexity of the matter. And you have explored the subject extremely well. Congratulations. Before I touch the concepts, I want to congratulate you. You have very fluent English. And to remember, we are not here to judge, at least myself. I'm really not at the position of judging whether you're right or wrong. This is something to move you forward, to make you feel good, to train, to take the practice, to take the opportunity to enhance your skills and to learn where you have to touch a little bit here or there. But you're basically ready to face an scientific audience. So just take this back home and just build upon that. So congratulations for the first part.
Thank you.
Very nice job. And there is, regarding to your work specifically, when you touch the risk assessment or the risk situation, that concept, there's a full richness to it. Because yes, it's dangerous operations and they cause hazard to both to the human health and to the environment. And yet there is this equation of exploring or exploiting sometimes the economic growth, but how is that being distributed around the society? So there is basically around the world, the experiences, they drive towards public policies. So if the public policies are not well written, they have not conditions, they're not conditions to foster employment, to foster training, preparation, so that in a collective way. Otherwise, you will see port operations that are isolated from the cities, isolated from the beneficial agreements. And this is a very, very important aspect. So your subject, your article touches that point. It brings all those subjects in a very good way as well. So there's more to be developed.
Yes.
So as you continue working on that subject, my suggestion is that you bring together another case from another port that has tried at least to reach the ideal solutions that you're looking for. So far, it was a very good start. Keep on that direction. And my suggestion is that you try to locate around the world another port that usually at Rotterdam port, at Amsterdam, they are really, they have embodied this city and port relation. So they are considered a reference in that way. So maybe you could take a look and study about that, but bring together to your study another case, so maybe you can dialogue with all the aspects of it. And I'm pretty sure you will benefit from that. And once again, congratulations. You're pointing towards a very, very good direction. So my opinion is just should keep going and develop further evidence and to add another case so you can compare and benefit from that comparison. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Professor
morning.
Tales, for the invitation to be here today. Ana Luisa, congratulations. I completely understand your speech. The subject of your theme is so important for Maranhão. And now we are passing for a time of the part are approaching of the university. And how do you think that the university can help the port to have actions to get the people with the port?
I think that we, as an international relations bachelor degree, have to create solutions to make the port and go out of these port locations. Like the port is on this location, is that doing the port activities. They have to be more than this. The port have to go to the city. The port have to go to the university. Not only UEMA but UFMA too. The port have to go around the city and show the port activities and show how important they are for Maranhão's population, not only for Maranhão agribusiness, but for population too, and the port have to create the solutions to show themselves to the population. The population knows that there is a port of Itaqui here, but they don't know what the port of Itaqui does and where is the port. The people doesn't even know what is the port of Itaqui, and the port of Itaqui have to show themselves to the population, to the society of Maranhão, not only São Luís, but to the society of Maranhão, to be more integrated on the society situation. So I think that we, as international relations bachelor degree, have to create the solutions and together with the port activities, with the MAP, the administration of the port, to make this integration between the port and the society.
Obrigada, e eu vou pedir licença para fazer um mix de línguas, mas eu fico muito feliz em ver a aproximação dos alunos em relação ao Porto, porque já há algum tempo nós temos trabalhado também nessa perspectiva da aproximação, e agora temos oportunidades, então que bom que vocês estão pensando também a questão portuária aqui no nosso estado, na nossa ilha. Obrigada.
Uma licença para também fazer um mix de línguas. A gente entende que o São Luís é uma cidade portuária, mas ela não se entende como uma cidade portuária, então a gente precisa mudar esse cenário. A gente tem um porto que não é só o porto de Itaqui, mas que também é o porto da Vale, que também é um porto privado, que é enorme e que é, como eu falei no trabalho, cheio de possibilidades, e a gente precisa explorar ao máximo todas essas possibilidades, como as outras cidades, Amsterdã, como citado pelo professor, explora, porque a gente tem muitas possibilidades e pouca exploração dessas possibilidades. A gente espera que, no futuro próximo, nós pudéssemos trabalhar no porto e explorar essas possibilidades também.
E teremos outros ainda aqui na ilha. Obrigada.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here and contributing to this beautiful work. First of all, well done, Ana Luisa. It's a very important subject for our state and the development, the economic development of our state. And you brought the intersection with SDGs, my favorite subject, sorry. But it was very well interconnected with the importance of the subject and bring to reality what is being told and discussed in all around the world, this global plan for us to achieve development goals. And what can I say other beside my colleagues and agreeing with all that has been said? I'm just going to add some considerations. I believe I totally understood you, of course, but my advice is you talk slower and we understand you better when you talk and not read. When you read, you have this preoccupation to be fast. And our diction, our fluence, it's worse first change. And what can I give you as an advice? It's breathe, take a deep breath, read a little bit slower. You have to think that your audience is not so fluent or might be multi-language. So everyone has their own difficulties with a foreign language. So if you read slower, you will be able to reach all your audience and you be more or better understood. Okay? One thing that helps us usually it's pictures, graphics, photos that really help us to pass our information to the audience. So it's a kind of a tool that you can use in your presentations. It speaks for itself, right? So everyone understands a graphic if it goes up or down, despite not reading the what's title or the subject, but you can graphically or as a picture, you can understand the meaning is already there. So it will help you to pass also the information. So it's more achievable. Your discourse can reach all your audience a little bit better. But I loved your accent, your diction is perfect. I believe just you can breathe a little bit.
Okay.
And again, congratulations.
Thank you. And thank you guys again. And we are going to follow the presentations with Lorena. You can.
Good morning, everyone. At first, I like to greet the bank and everyone here present and watch remotely. I'm Lorena Costa, a student of International Relationship major at this university, and I produced this research with my classmate Thais Araújo, who is sit right there, and guided by Professor Ariane de Rocha. Our research, as you can see at the slide, it's about the reasons behind Brazil's return to the United Nations Hunger Map in 2022, after leaving it officially in 2014. So we consider answering questions like, where has the federal government failed to make this comeback? Did the COVID-19 pandemic help at this? And what are the possible solutions to revert the situation? After checking the global goals from 2030 agenda and the second national study on food security in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, based on the Look at the Hunger report, showed that 58.7% of Brazilians live with some degree of food insecurity, which is classified into three levels: low, uncertainty about food access in the near future; moderate, insufficient amount of food; and severe, lack of food and hunger. Beyond that, this report also indicates the prevalence of severe food insecurity from 3.9 million Brazilians between 2014 to 2016 to 15.4 million Brazilians between 2019 to 2021. So, as you can see, a series of natural, social, and political events occurred in 2015 are responsible for food insecurity. The most important of them are the political crisis and the global mining recession, who affected the economy in 2016 and 2015, with the election of United States, who elected President Donald Trump. These events associated with the COVID-19 pandemic and the way how Brazil's government deals with the virus show the reasons why food insecurity has increased exponentially in our country. The United Nations report, The State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World of 2022, showed the increase of severe food insecurity up to 7.3% in Brazilians at 2020's COVID-19 pandemic. In addition, at the documents released by five United Nations agencies indicated concern about the return to the hunger map at the last 5 years. Beyond that, the national report, Look at the Hunger, that I mentioned before, in partnership with Oxfam Brazil and other organizations, collected data between November 2021 and April 2022 that 15.5%, almost 33.1 million people, are facing severe food insecurity in a country that has 214 million people. So 5 years ago, the United Nations has warned about the possible return to the hunger map, and the government did nothing to stop it. Even being one of the biggest food producers, Brazil's return to the hunger map in 2022, like I said before, even after a decade of progress in reducing hunger. As the economy fell out, COVID-19 pandemic, the global mining recession, and a lot of political crises, Brazil has seen a marked deterioration in its food security indicators. The study categorizes Brazil as a country where more than 2.5% of people faces a chronic lack of food. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, over 61 million Brazilians live with some food insecurity. Categorizes into the three levels that I said before: low, moderate, and severe. Because of that, the federal government failed to adopt a series of key social protection policies to reverse the situation. On top of that, the growing foreign market for commodities like soil and grain have also hindered food security for Brazilians, Like they said, it's better export and have more money than feed your own people. At the end, some experts say, unless the innovative government policies of the early 2000s revive, even the end of the pandemic will not make the situation better. As you can see, only policies adopted in the beginning of the century, 22 years ago, can reduce the hunger and food insecurity in Brazil. In conclusion, Brazil's return to the hunger map is a consequence of political crisis starting in 2015, deeply connected to the global mining recession that affected the economy in the same year, which calls for strong federal government need on revival social protective policies adopted during late 1990s and early 2000s, whose innovative government policies was the main reason behind successful statistic on the degrees of food insecurity until 2014. Like I showed you guys here, only social policies that has adopted 20 and 30 years ago can reduce the problems that you can see here and take off Brazil's from map of hunger of the United Nations. Thank you.
Okay. Well, congratulations, Lorena. How are you feeling? Wow. Yeah, you did well. Congratulations. Okay. Yes. So it's about like this. Okay. So this is a very good training. So even for Professor Tales, congratulations. This is really, really exactly how it will be when you go abroad or if you travel, when you sit down, when you do your presentation. It's just like that. So you will feel stressed, you will feel shaken, you will, I mean, maybe cry or just sweat, but don't worry. This happens to everyone. Okay, so this is just know that, consider that it's part of it, but it's your work. So you're speaking out your effort, your beliefs, and your intelligence. So how you're bringing those concepts together on paper, and helping those subjects to create life, to create form, to be in, and especially for such a annoying subjects such as hunger. So this is really, and this there's a connection with the previous work where we are like we are a huge country, but we mainly export soybeans, and that's not food. This is being sold. We are exporting that, and it's been processed abroad, and it's pretty much used for livestock, like for animals. So it's really not helping the world economy to reduce hunger. So there are lots of interesting factors that you can explore in details. So you can make, for instance, this connection. So you can maybe explore that that relation. I mean, look where we are as a country. Then you zoom in into state. Then you zoom out again, and you see how these connections can be constructed, erected, and then develop from that. And then again, it's really just keep going. You're I could understand you. I felt you were a bit anxious, but it's okay. Keep practicing your slowing down a bit, just like my colleague said. This is like for life, okay? Let's just breathe. Just just try to pace down a bit so you can give the information with a more suitable way. So, but it's you're doing just fine. Just keep going. Congratulations. Wow, that's incredible. That's a great start. Trust me. That's far better than expected. Just keep going. Keep going. All right. Congratulations.
So for your first time It's awesome. But as Professor already said, breathing is everything. And this moment is exactly for that, for you can practice again, my advice, when you breathe and when you talk a little bit slow, you can think better. You can choose better your words. So you can improve your presentation and you can be better understood by your audience. To talk about this subject again, as professors before said, SDG 2, it's one of the most important along with the one. And Brazil, this huge country, still fights with these kind of extreme problems. And it's a very actual subject. And I'm glad you brought it to discussion. And we must reflect and think, why are we in 2022 still discussing this kind of matters? We could already be out of that awful map, but we aren't. So I believe we all can think about what can we do to really solve this problem. And as you said, it was your first time. It was a wonderful choice of subject. I really congratulate you for that. And I really hope to see you in the next sessions, next years. And improving, just like Professor said, it's about training, reading more, reading with calm, breathing, and you'll be better, even better than you were today. But congratulations. I understood you perfectly, okay?
Thank you so much, Professor. I was talking with my friend that we decided to do this research because the hunger situation is about in our world since the beginning, since the century one. It's always had hunger, and no one talks about this like with so many importance because it's hunger. Okay, we see this every day, we talk about this every day, but not with so much importance that has to be. So uh, inclusive in this year, that if all the events, if the food is super expensive and the people has to looking trash for food, especially in Brazil, we choose to research about this subject because this year was so much important and we have to look for the subject um, with more consideration, I guess, with more importance, and trying to figure it out how to end with this. Like one of the first one, CGG, I guess. Yes.
Thanks, Lorena, for your presentation. If you are nervous, me too. Every time when we need to talk in English here in Brazil or abroad is a huge challenge for us. I think my colleagues think the same. But you are doing so well because you are moving forward and you are doing it so early. It's important as your colleagues. It's so important. Okay. Then congratulations for your presentation and for the to choose the hunger to discuss. And my question is about um, this time that we are passing. That do you think that the Brazilians thought about the hunger during this election? They choose the president thinking about the hunger. What do you think?
I think the 60 million Brazilians who voted right, I guess, I don't want to bring the president election I discuss here. Thinking about the hunger, thinking about the people who died, thinking about the consequences of the past president actions, and thinking about the can eat food for a right price, not paying like a thousand reais, I guess, for a piece of meat or chicken, and people who are in the streets stop looking for food in trash and piece of bones, trying to, I don't know, feel a little piece of meat at least. So I think the 60 million people who voted in the right choice, thinking about this, but the other one just thinking about yourselves and all the money they can get into the poor people, and not in the right distribution of the material for alimentation, for water to people who are starving and dying from out of water. So yes, I think that the people thinking about the hunger and the healthy stuff, and they elected the president.
Thank you.
All right, let's go, Thalia. Please.
Hi. Good morning. I'm Thalia. I'm a biological sciences student. I'm going to present my project about birds that currently is my TCC. So my work is about educational actions according to sustainable development goals to combat the wild birds traffic in public schools in São Luís, Maranhão. My research supervisor is the Professor Lígia Almeida. So this subject is very important because in Brazil we have a great bird life biodiversity, especially in Maranhão state. And the birds are a victim from animal trafficking, and that causes a huge impact in the ecological balance. The subject is very important also because the animal traffic causes ecosystem impact in Brazil and the species. So this work is a contribution to the environmental awareness of society. In Brazil, we have predominance about 1,990 species of birds count until now. And in Maranhão, the birds are the most victims from the animal trafficking. That's why we chose to build a project about how to combat the birds trafficking, not all the animals, because the birds are not very seen by the people. Environmental education is a tool using the Sustainable Development Goals. In this project, we can see three SDGs, the 11, the 4, and the 15. The objective of this work is to raising awareness among high school students from public schools in São Luís, Maranhão about wild bird trafficking and conservation and its impact. This work was executed during 1 year, since last year until this year in July, and we went to 2 schools in Cidade Operária next to EMA. Centro Educamais Paulo VI and Centro de Ensino João Pereira Martins Neto. We held lectures, dynamics with awards, also workshops about conservation, and an online drawing contest on Instagram. Here we can see the presentation of the project to the students in the both schools last year, and the lecture we held were the lecture 1 about consequences of wild animal trafficking and how illegal purchases encourage this clandestine trade. And all the lectures we made also dynamic in the end to fix the contact with the students. The lecture 2 was how illegal buying encourages illegal trade in animals. The third one was impacts of wildlife trafficking on bird welfare, and the last one was reasons that lead to the extinction of wild birds. It's important to say also that we made interviews with the students, but the data is not here because we separate this for my final TCC to defend in the beginning of the next year. Here we can see few materials we used in the dynamics and the lectures. We realized that. The first one was on slides and a dynamic. And the next 3 lectures with dynamics and awards, we used and created infographics on Canva. The awards we gave to the students were chocolate and also points in the subject of Portuguese. We built a social network of the project where we created posts about conservation of the birds from Maranhão, and also we posted there about the projects we were doing in the schools. This is our social project logo that we created also in Canva. Besides that, besides the lectures and the dynamics, we held a workshop about poem and poetry. And here we can see the cover of the Cordo literature about the harpy eagle, where I created with my volunteer Claudiane, also part of the team. And then we showed this to the students, and they were inspired to create their own poetry about one of the birds that we posted on Instagram. And we made some kind of competition, and the winner team was the Team B, where we can see the cover about the guará. And on the other side, the picture of the students is reading their poetry for everybody else. Here we can see more pictures of the lectures in Centro Educamais Paulo VI, and another picture in another school. And very important passage, environmental education is fundamental to the awareness of society, making it possible to develop attitudes and values towards environment's problems. And we realized that during this project, the students were more worried about the environment. How could they help to combat this traffic? How could they talk with other people about, no, it's not cool if you take an animal from environments and stuck it in his house. So they were very worried about how to help this situation. And in the final of the project, the team we were invited to held on workshop or mini course at IFMA during the Environment Week. And we were there and we presented our projects and the main topics of the subjects for the high school students from IFMA Campus Centro Histórico. And the final of the project, we held drawing contest on Instagram where everybody could participate, even high school students from the schools and people that were followers. And the winners were the first place with Ararajubas do Norte Maranhense, second place As Cores da Liberdade, and fourth place Faça Diferente, Não Compre Gaiolas, Plante uma Árvore em Seu Quintal. The winners were students from WEMA, but from other campus. And here we can see the awards we gave to them, the winners. And according to Macedo and contributors, the strategies used are pedagogical tools that motivate students' creativity and interaction with the teaching and learning process. In the conclusion, we could realize the project was very well received by the school, the students, and even the followers on Instagram. And we could realize also a significant evolution of the knowledge about conservation, about animal trafficking, about ecology, and how to combat this trafficking. And also we could reach not just the students from the schools, but people that were seeing our project on Instagram. Here's some references, and I think all of them. And thank you.
Thank you, Thalia. Congratulations. So good presentation. I really like. And thanks for represent the biological science here, the only one. You have a mission for the next one to bring your colleagues for the presentations, okay?
Okay.
Thalia, you told us about the participation of the students, but I'm so curious about the teachers from the school. How they receive the project, they engaged in the project.
Just the teacher of Portuguese, the teacher of biology, we couldn't reach him, and I think he was not very interested in helping us. But the director and the Portuguese teacher was very receptive.
Okay. It's a job to do to engage the teachers. Yeah. What do you think? It's important or?
Yeah, it's really important. We tried, but we just could reach one. The others weren't very interested, and even there were a math teacher that didn't want us to be there with the project.
But soon you will be a teacher, and we will discuss with your students these points. Yeah. Thank you, Thalia.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Thalia, congratulations.
Thank you.
You see, it seems easy, right? It's not easy. You're speaking extremely well, and your presentation, it's speaking for itself, just like a colleague said. This, guys, everyone, you really should pay really a lot of attention to her presentation at the format. I mean, like it's enticing. So when you look at it, you get the main idea. I will bring just one example. The objective was like outdoor. It gets crystal clear what you're aiming at. I mean, what's my objective? Is like there with the square on it, with a different color, and then you brought pictures, and it's a live animation. So you really should explore that further on, and especially the other students, whereas sometimes you really don't have much. You think you may not have much to illustrate, but there's always a way to bring the ideas into graphics, into a logical way, especially when it gets hard, when it gets tough, when you have to use theories, when you have to contrast ideas. Try always to bring that into some kind of a flow chart, or maybe just give like a form to your ideas, into shapes, into edges, into colors. So you use the image to on your behalf. So it really copes. It really helps. It's really strategic, and I would say it's like congratulations. It's a job that's necessary for the society. That's why we just keep pushing, even if the teachers there they're just they're so tough. They're not welcoming because maybe just never mind. Just keep pushing because it's really important. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Talia, what can I say? Excellent job. It was exactly what I meant earlier before. Your presentation, it's everything is there. If you even not paying attention to what are you saying, I should or I could understand. Bring we can bring the SDGs for all the discussions in the world, and in this matter also. So a subject as animal or bird traffic, you could put SDGs on it, and it could bring that into discussion. And I'm really thank you for for that, because this is a very important agenda for myself and for my mission as well. So this is how we can bring in our work every day. So it's the right example that how can we bring the 2030 agenda, the SDGs, for our life, our professional life, our discussions with our communities where we are inserted. So I really thank you for bringing this subject, for the interconnection you made with SDGs, and your brilliant presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next one is Luisa Helena. Please join us.
Was elaborated by me, Luis Helena Morim Souza, and Giovanna Silva Pinheiro, who is there in the audience. We are students of the International Relations course, and our research supervisor was Thiago Alves. To start our discussion, we have to emphasize that this paper aims to discuss how religion still has impacts on ideological political relations, even though secular state has been instituted for a long time. The indissoluble relation religion and state had for many centuries set precedents for the use of religion to legitimize political decisions. Nowadays, it is important to highlight that it is essential to separate religious morals from state duties, since the state must make decisions that take into account society as a whole, and not only one group, that in this case would be religious people. So this paper is meant to analyze and comprehend how religion still impacts in politics, especially given the latest global and national phenomenon, and to understand how politics has been given back the power to interfere in politics. As the background of our research, we have that historically, religion enjoyed of great prestige in the social pyramid. But with time, the theocratic regimes were overcome with democracies and different forms of power in the West, which turned religion no longer officially related to the state. Even though that happened, the idea of a civil organization based on religious commandments may still be in the imagination of those who establish beliefs. Since religion has always been important to ideological political decisions, it becomes important to analyze its participation in the social dynamics and measure its reach to the masses, because some societies and groups, for some reasons, tend to elaborate a partial or a total vision of a religious world. The methodology applied in this research, in this paper, was bibliographic research. That way, during the process of collecting data, the information was found mainly in books, articles, and research developed by other authors, and the established criteria to decide which materials were going to compose this paper was the papers that discussed how religion evolved its impact on people's ideology and political opinion in the last few years. They were chosen due to the fact that they met the possible discussions that were going to be developed within the theme proposed by this project. The search for these materials was realized in the following databases, Cielo and Comunidade Acadêmica Federada, in which we found 6 articles and 2 books that composed the sample analyzed here. As a result, we have that it is necessary to comprehend the web of relationships that permeate religion and politics to identify the increase of impact religion has reacquired in the last few years. That way, we have to understand that religion and politics have always been interconnected, and their relation for many years was seen as indissoluble, as I said before. So, their relation being indissoluble made the impact religion had is still present in the modern days, when secular state has already been instituted. Even though, theoretically, state and religion have been separated due to the rationalization and secularization of politics, the strategic alliances between these two institutions, they have been substituted by tactic alliances that were characterized by sometimes being of conflict, sometimes being of collaboration. In dialogue with Maduro's sociological definition of religion, which defines it as a social phenomenon immersed in a complex and busy network of social relations, we have to highlight that religious modernity in Brazil challenges the frontiers of democracy by promoting moralizing debates. Moreover, with the growing participation of religious figures in the Chamber of Deputies, the so-called Evangelical Parliamentary Front was created by the evangelicals, which together characterize the insertion of religion in politics in a declared manner. Then it is important to protect the secularity of the state in order to guarantee the civilizing debates and the civil rights of all citizens. So, in conclusion, it is understood that the role of religion through the centuries was characterized in different ways. For some times, in Middle Ages, for example, the institution of religion was used to legitimize the power of the monarch. And however, the externalization of religious morals towards the state promote distortions that affect the debate of comprehensive and inclusive agendas in the face of diversity in the modern world. The influence of religion in political-ideological relations must be addressed in order to guarantee the governability of the state for all citizens, as well as the debate of socially relevant agendas without religion being used as a parameter in a constitutionally secular state. Here are the references we used to base our research, and that's it. Thanks for your attention.
All right. Congratulations, Luisa. Yes. So it's one of the topics that are really in depth. So it's really hard to put that into 10 minutes to comprise all the complexity of the subject. And congratulations, you have achieved well. I could understand your ideas, the contrasting points of your work, and it's something that in those really the fraction of time you're given, you have achieved well. Congratulations. And I would say it's a subject that deserves so much attention, so much awareness, at least for. And the word that captured me was when you said as a whole, as a unity, as not, but not to be just for small groups. So there is a point to on our own reflection as citizens, as human beings, and it's really, it's a work that should drives awareness towards the science community, and also towards public policy, which is, again, it's driven to public policy to become as a whole. So we cannot govern just for those that believe. So that's the tricky aspect. And I do believe you have reached your goal. And I would congratulate you and say that for your next works, so maybe you could perhaps give the objectives a little bit more clear. So where are you aiming at? Where you wish to arrive as your thought? I mean, I can follow your thoughts. I mean, where you want, but it was not completely clear where you wanted to arrive at the argument. And so it's like a clarification of the subject, or you're given the general aspect of it and where it should arrive as a calling, as a call to action. So how, as a proposal, actually, what do you propose? What do you actually believe, or how's the theory that you're reading driving you toward the destination? So, I mean, it's pretty much that. So if you could, do you feel like talking? Do you feel like answering that, or what was your final proposal? I mean, where did you want to arrive with the main idea?
I think the main idea of the research itself was actually to discuss how historically they have been interconnected, and this connection has been kind of lost or gone to private places. Like, I have my faith and it was being manifested privately, but latest in the last decades, you can see how it has returned as a form of manifestation, like in a group manifestation. You can see people justifying some things because of religion, something political related, obviously, because of religion, when it actually shouldn't be like that. You should think in other things first, especially because not everyone has the same faith. So you shouldn't base something on someone's faith when other people may actually not believe in that. You should think in society as a unit, as a whole.
Oh, I see. Now, not only as a separation. So
Yeah.
it's being brought up as a separation issue. And
Yeah.
then the text, your work is proposing the opposite,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, now I understood. Thank you.
Thanks for discuss this so interesting subject with us, so important nowadays, yeah.
Yes.
And congratulations for your presentation,
Thanks.
your organization. For me, it was so clear. And I want to put another point in your discussion to hear about your opinion. How can you feel the diversity of religion of Brazilians in this context? Here we don't have one domination of the religion.
Yeah.
We are so diverse in this context. What do you think? What do you feel about it?
It's when I mentioned the fact that it's not something as a whole, it should be something as a whole, as a unit. And when I say we shouldn't base political decisions in someone's faith, is actually talking about the diversity, because people manifest their faith in different ways and believe in different things, and you shouldn't put someone's faith over the other or decide it based on it. And I think that's basically, I don't know if you can understand, but
Is an expression of power. Yeah? Do you think?
yeah, I think it is.
Thank you a lot. Congratulations.
Luisa, congratulations again.
Thanks.
It was a tough subject.
Yeah.
But you brought it very, very paced and very well in these few minutes. You could bring us the reflection, the needed reflection about this dichotomy and how we are mixing both subjects and how we must be diverse and respect diversity, but not mix it with another power, which is politics. So politics must be for everyone and not based on someone's beliefs. And I believe you brought it to our own discussion, and I'm thank you for that. It's really a tough subject, a needed reflection, of course, but very difficult to bring it more well, how can I say it, kind of graphically, but translated into pictures or graphics is so much difficult. But you brought it with clearness, with transparency, and we could really understand what you wanted to bring to discuss here with us. And I'm so thankful for that, for your clearness and your peace in your discourse. You really breathe and talk and read with very calm, and that was really something that we could see on your speech. And really, it was a good presentation, although it's a difficult subject, of course.
Thank you for all that.
Okay, thank you. Next one is Camila Helena. Please join us.
Good morning. Let's see if I know how to use this. Good morning, Honorable Chair. My name is Camila Schlieb, and I did this research with my colleague, Sofia Feres, and our supervisor was Professor Christian Burli. It was a great honor that I present this seminar called Cyber Democracy, the Rising and Consequences of the Power of Artificial Intelligence at Wrong Hands. Thank you. This seminar hopes to clearly address the phenomena of democracy in social networks and how governments around the world have been using it to their advantage. Based on the criticisms made in the article, The Crisis of Cyber Democracy, questions to understand the social-political role of the Internet in the electoral rise of authoritarian governments by our Professor Christian Bulli, with the main object of raising awareness of the power of mass manipulation of the Internet in political decisions. To begin with, I'd like to point out that we are actually inside the subject under study, which better example to show off than the recent Brazilian scenario. As presented in Burley's article, Crisis in Cyber Democracy, in the last 4 years, the dissemination of fake news have been an active factor in publicity, and surely has shown this hidden power all through the past years, being even more recognizable during 2022 elections. When you bring democracy as a subject, the definition of it may seem like the most fair and genuine form of government, and indeed is the closest we get to one. But as it was already said by the famous philosopher Aristotle, it is degenerated through its execution. The thing that can be danger to it is exactly what makes democracy democratic. The power that everyone holds at making political choices and how they use this. In the Brazilian elections of 2022, we were able to observe the importance of the online court for decision-making at the polls. Therefore, we have seen the onslaught of neo-fascist campaigns masked of the networks, deciding voters and being propagated daily. One of the most important knowledge is political knowledge. However, with the advantage of globalization in the media, the propagation of immoral speeches that harm democracy or even the Universal Declaration of Human Rights have become increasingly common, disguised as opinion. According to the empirical analysis of Thomas Hobbes, no right is absolute, not even freedom of speech. Nevertheless, many individuals use the right of propagate their opinions to spread hatred, and this has been happening since the birth of civilization. Once, as will be agreed in the seminar, for Hobbes, it is natural for human beings to use all possible weapons to achieve their greatest desire, which includes dominating other lives for their own benefits. The main object of this presentation is to point out the importance of communication technology within the political scenario, especially electoral, and how the process of globalization is also affected, mainly when most of the actors within online democracy are easily manipulated by the voice of neo-fascist authorities, and contribute to the propagation not only of lies, but also of hate speech disguised as opinion. The method used in this research is self-descriptive, being called explanatory research, in which the goal is to establish a relationship between cause and effect. This type of modus operandi helps you see in clearly way patterns in the whys and hows behind them, leading to an understanding of the subject under the perspective of those terms. Applied to this research, in particular, literature reviews and observation from Thomas Hobbes and Aristotle are used as reference, guiding a whole reflection about democracy, freedom of speech, and the denigration of that kind of government through the highs and lows correlated between the two. As analyzed in the article, The Crisis of Cyber Democracy, questions to understand the social-political role of the Internet in the electoral rise of authoritarian governments, written by the excellent Professor Christian Bulli. In the current situation, personal opinions are shared in an increasingly accelerated way. This factor is due to globalization and technological advantage, with even beings necessary for the global developments, makes the spread of undemocratic and neo-fascist disguised as tradition, morality, and good customs more easily. It is correct to say that crisis in cyber democracy occurs daily. president democracy, occurs daily. However, with the speed of propagation of information through the internet, groups even with Nazi intentions have gained stage. What is happening now is that many people are asking for military interventions every day without knowing what it is, if what it really means. Once they have believed and adopted the discourse spread by anti-democratic and fascist authorities. An example of this is the rebellion by truck drivers that are happening now. As was discussed all through this resume, it's clear that the word that should be used as a representation of freedom as much as we are able to have without harming others is losing its meaning, being used to put under the spotlight lies and distorted truths that harms that democracy long being built around the world, especially at countries with authoritarian governments. The point is, the power that the internet and social media has to put fear into people who are just being themselves and spreading their opinions became a middle road between the elector, the authorities, and the justice. A lot of citizens are dying every day because of the internet hate, which is encouraged by neo-fascists and undemocratic politicians, who also spread fake news for their own advantage, lying and laughing in the face of democracy. I finished here, but I have my own conclusion that I once watched a documentary by Petra Costa. I don't know if you know that. It's called Democracia em Vertigem. And she said one phrase that I liked, that was, I fear that democracy was just a ephemeral dream. And I think it is that, and we choose this theme for the actual I don't know how to translate this because it's a complicated word for me, but we think it's very pertinent and it's happening now. One example was the federal deputy most voted in Brazil, Nicolas Ferreira. He was basically elected by the online court because he was a TikToker, and we decided to choose him, for example, in this conclusion. And thank you.
All right, Camila. So how are you feeling?
Nervous.
Nervous, yeah. It's part of the game. Congratulations. That's such a spicy subject. You know, it's spicy in the sense of apimentado, and it's important. It's relevant. It's actual. We're living, as you said. It's really surrounding, not only on politician issues or tolls, but in every day to day. So in the sense of the cyber democracy, there are two words that come together, which is freedom and responsibility. So the challenge as students is to bring conscious, to bring awareness that these words, they come together. They must walk hand in hand. So you cannot talk about freedom without responsibility. And the sense of the collective. And this is what your work is proposing, in the sense of bringing that awareness and to educate. So you're bringing Thomas Hobbes. So you're bringing Aristotle, ancient, very old reference to bring out how the concept of state was first placed. It's a long way. It's a lot of information to be comprised in such a small article in time. But the main idea that should be fostered is that if you have just freedom without responsibility, it can be very dangerous, based on opinions and how they feel about it. And then, or if you're imposing freedom, what kind of freedom is imposed? So there's a lot to be discussed in that. But what I would suggest now into the technical aspect of the presentation as your article. And again, I'm talking to you, Camila, but I'm also talking to all the students, okay? This is not specially to you. This is something that everyone will benefit. Be careful about using adjectives during your elaboration. Every time you put adjectives, whether you're saying good things or not so good things, you were printing basically your opinion on text. So it's really important to keep that scientific approach and to avoid using adjectives, os adjetivos. Every time we choose an adjective, we are imprinting our impression under the subject, and that could be tricky. Because as a scientific article, we should propose some aspect of neutrality. It's impossible. We have our path dependence from where we were born and what we've been reading. And nonetheless, it's really important to practice that. And the adjectives, they are tricky. They can imprint emotions or preferences, and this could be not well taken on a real life examination, for instance. So it's just one suggestion I would propose to all of you. So whenever you have to use, it's important to use facts. It's important to use the literature, the theory, what they're being posed, without judging whether it's good or bad. And please accept this with an open heart. It's really so far up to now, it's by far the most complex subject. It's not easy to bring that up on a very small presentation. So it's a huge effort, and congratulations for your courage.
Thank
Keep
you.
going.
Thank you.
Very nice.
I would like to thank you, Professor, because me and Sophia, we were very insecure about putting these terms, but it's our first job together, and we thought, why not? So thank you for this.
Problem. This is a safe place to be.
Thank you.
Like in Martial Arts, Professor Thales knows this very well. So that's the right place to fall. So you have to feel safe to try, safe to make mistakes, safe to say, not knowing what to say. Am I speaking correctly? Am I saying the right word? Is my fluency? Is my speech? No, don't worry. Just try. Take the moment. Slip. Rise again. Try again. This is a safe house, a safe place, so you can make mistakes in a safe manner. So enjoy the moment.
Thank you.
Camila, congratulations. You did so well. Don't worry about you're afraid about to speak here. It's okay. I liked a lot your presentation. I agree with the considerations of the professor about your use of the words, but it's okay for your first time. And I like to make a question for each one of you, of the students. And during your presentation, I was thinking about the differences that we can see in the generations of Brazil. All the time, I'm talking with my parents what they think about the communication in social media, about the democracy, and how can you see this? Do you think about this? You are so younger than me. It's important for me to learn with you, with your opinion.
Okay, thank you for your question. First, I don't think that I'm much younger than you, but okay. I think that with the internet and all the speed of communication, we can put those generations together, and we saw this a lot especially on Twitter. We can see adults with child speaking like 12 years old child with grand old man. And I think this is great because we can see other point of views out of our bottle. But the problem starts when, for example, our generation doesn't understand the thoughts and the creation of your generation, for example. But I think that is a work of evolution. I think that old people should learn with young people and great and
Use Portuguese, it's not a problem.
grow together. I remember that. Yes, I think it is.
Thank you a lot. And congratulations again.
Hi, Camila.
Hi.
As Professor said, this is your safe net. Here you're safe with us. This is really your audience for all the tests that you can and are convinced and pushed to do. Here is the place to do all your experiments. And this is such an important subject that it brought to us. I believe sometimes people, you said a word here, is disguised. People confuse democracy with a kind of undercovered opportunity. Just because we have democracy and everyone has the right of having their own opinions, they're disguised that right that we have as citizens, and we want to make the cyber side, the cyberspace, our place of influence. We want to use this democracy, this ability that we have to express our own opinions, to express hatred, to express bad influences, to express things that you could and should keep to yourself. There's a saying that my freedom ends when begins the other. So people that use cyberspace usually think that they are safe behind a computer, behind a laptop, or a cell phone. And this must be brought and bring the awareness, the enough awareness to this subject. There's no safety doing wrong and express your hate. You must and you should have your opinions, but not to bring or inflict pain to others. So you could express your rights as a citizen, but you need to have in mind the right of the other citizens. And I believe this open space that cyberspace brought us make most of people doesn't have so many values or good values to use that tool to be undercovered and express their hate to each other. So thank you for bringing this discussion to us, the awareness that all we have or need, because we are seeing that every day, and we must fight it in every single way that we can. So thank you so much. It's a tough subject, but as you said, it's your first job, it's your first paper, so keep going. You are in the right path, okay?
Thank you.
Okay. So before we continue, we would like to call for a 5 minutes break. Okay? Okay, thank you. 5 minutes, guys, just 5 minutes.
Good morning. Yes. So I'm Lara Austríaco, and I am an international relations student. And today I'll be presenting my work named The Soft Power and the South Korean Foreign Policy that was supervised by Professor Priscila Oliveira. South Korea has become one of the greatest world powers on the 21st century, not only using its economic and military power, but also soft power. In this presentation, I would like to highlight those 4 topics. First one is how the history of South Korea influenced its current development. Second one is government's role in the development of a country. The third one is soft power and the Korean wave. And the last one is K-pop, the main investment in soft power. Soft power is a strategy that uses the culture and political ideals of a country to further its development. And we can see its importance when you take a look at the South Korea's history. In the period of the World Wars, Korea was divided into North and South Korea, where South Korea was taken by the Russians and no, sorry, I'm sorry. South Korea was taken by the Japanese and North Korea was taken by the Russians. But at the end of the Cold War, South Korea was now taken by the United States and became capitalist. Mainly because of its division, its development becomes fundamental for the study of the soft power application. One of the biggest past at soft power in South Korea is the Korean wave. When we advance a little bit in Korea's history, Korean wave was the popularization of South Korea's history and culture during the 90s. And with it, they created the K-pop. K-pop is basically the music produced in South Korea, and it generates billions of dollars for Korea's economy. The greatest example that we can give in Korea and soft power is the group K-pop BTS. Which has become an international phenomenon that generates billions of dollars for Korean economy. In addition to boosting the country's diplomatic relations, having even participated in UN Assembly and to represent the country. With this, we can see the importance of the K-pop in the industry. We have the big 3, which are the 3 biggest entertainment companies that are responsible for the management of the biggest groups and idols. And the big 3 is formed by YG Entertainment, SM Entertainment, and JYP Entertainment. So in this methodology, the type of research used in this article was descriptive and exploratory in relation of the objectives. And the procedures for collecting the aforementioned data were through bibliographic and documentary research with a quantitative and qualitative approach in order to relate the data for interpretation. So as the result, K-pop earns over 4.7 billion a year for Korea, led by state-subsidized private companies that are publicly traded on the Seoul Stock Exchange, but also the result of a 20-year government gamble of South Korea in culture. So as conclusion, I would like to say that South Korea has become, as I already said, one of the greatest world powers in the 21st century, and it became, at least in my point of view, an example that we could follow to Brazil's development, and that we can take it a look and improve the use of our culture to the development of our country. That's it. Thank you all for having me and for the attention.
All right. Congratulations, Laura.
Thank you.
Well, I have a daughter. She's 10 years old, and she's crazy about K-pop. Crazy, crazy, crazy. And I learned to enjoy as well. And and when I read your article, I went through all of your articles yesterday, and all of them are absolutely interesting, great subjects. And this one highlighted because, of course, K-pop, but not only of that, but because of the word soft, the concept of soft power. It's something that has been brilliantly used by South Korea, especially when you bring back the historical background. I mean, they have despite they've been through wars and the Japanese influence, and then the USA, and still they have a boundary with North Korea, which is absolutely opposite in every aspect. So they're bringing culture not only as a product. So they're not selling culture. It's different. It's it's in the sense of authenticity of how they are as a nation, how they work as a nation, how they relate to the world as a nation. So you have cars, for instance, Hyundai. So it's South Korean. And South Korea purchases a large part of what we export of iron ore, a huge part of it thereby. And they are part of it. So in the sense of, if you see the brands that they are building, they all have a sense of community. They all have a preoccupation to help with the economy and to bring awareness as well. So this is soft power applied. And then your article brings that, and I believe that with more time you can actually develop further a stronger connection, which is what I suggest in your further development, that you develop the link between economic and soft power. Soft power you can be applied pretty much in every instance, but maybe if you feel interested, if you feel compelled, if you feel like it's interesting, because you've spoken about billions of dollars and you're capturing the numbers, so I assume that you would be interested in exploring more that connection between how soft powers are gearing South Korean economy to at the stage that they are currently. And given such a small time frame, 20 years, this is nothing. That's a very aggressive economic growth for a very limited geographic country. I mean, if you compare Brazil to South Korea, it's like ridiculous. It's nothing to be compared. But yet, there's a there's intrinsic relation between that, how they use culture and how they use that to embody the nation. So there's a lot of lessons for us to learn from them. So in the sense of authenticity, and how to foster that to the world. So I would give you this suggestion. So you maybe you should explore that link. I think you will benefit from that, and the subject will bring more richness on the matter. But it's always good. So it's a fancy subject, and it's shiny. It's good. So there is a lot of more information to be explored within. Congratulations. Very nice subject.
Thank you.
Lara, once again, congratulations for this really nowadays subject. We can see this influence, this new wave of conquering everyone. I don't have children, but I watch many international moments, events from UN, and I saw them on UN. And when you conquer UN, you conquer the world. So you can reach the most higher powers Western world, which is United Nations. So group culture, this is an extreme and an excellent example of how you can reach and how you can overcome your borders. So you can show yourself through your culture and your ways of being and living, how you can conquer the world. So everyone has this influence about Korean culture. I see many series on Netflix, for example. It's everywhere, and you can see with no war, with no aggressivity, with just showing and conquering through culture. For example, we see so many videos about the way of being, their culture, the preoccupation with each other, with the other, with the well-being of everyone. Just, this is an example for us as humanity, as human beings, and as humankind. I really believe that we are going to see so many further examples and good examples of how you can conquer without war, without fighting, but through examples and good examples. So this was such a good choice of a subject to bring us. I'm really thankful for you, for your choice and your colleagues, and I really hope to see you in the next session. Okay?
Thank you.
Lara, congratulations.
Thank you.
I was thinking that I know nothing about K-pop. And I really like the way that you use to organize your ideas during the presentation, showing us the concepts, your objectives so clearly. It was so good. And I don't have a question, but I have a suggestion. In the way that the professor said, you maybe can discuss more all the information about the concepts behind the soft power and K-pop, because I think that lots of people, as me, know nothing about this, and we are involved in this in all the media and in our days. Okay. But I really like your presentation. Congratulations, and especially for your choice of the theme. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Now I want to welcome at the stage the student Ana Luisa.
Good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. My name is Ana Luisa Romano, and I'll be starting the presentation of the work Women in Iran Beyond a Political Object, which has as the research supervisor the Professor Tiago Alisson. The main goal of this work is to present that analyzing the reality of Iranian women places us in such an insecure and uncertain environment, since dismissing all Western stereotypes to explore a history marked with such strong traditions requires much more than breaking with hegemonic discourses. It demands tolerance and respect. We must see then with the history itself with different eyes. Women in historiography are often placed only as victims, and this is a affirmative we can make without a doubt. And however, this summary will analyze the female capacity to claim their rights and act and fight for dignity, whether in the imperialist or fundamentalist context. Here we see the first topic of starting with the topic of the background of our work from Shah to Ayatollah, power and resistance. In 1936, Iranian women under the regime of the pro-Western monarch Shah Reza Pahlavi were forced to remove their veils, which became forbidden in public places. That was the moment when the veil became the symbol, and the veiled woman becomes such a forced representation of the political resistance, the Islamic Revolution, and the Iranian people. As a result of this, the White Revolution started. It was a set of political, economic, and infrastructure measures and reforms. In this context, women were already the main focus. They wanted to liberate them in such a term of like Western ways and to show the world the modernity, the new modern era. The population wasn't pleased because the reforms only contemplated the elite and trivialization, the well-being of most of the population that would suffer from many things that would cause the many problems that were caused by the negligence of the state. All of this contributed to the insurgency of the population in 1978, after the current leader tries to attempt to move away from the Iranian culture. Tehran, the capital of Iran, was taken by a growing wave of popular demonstrations demanding the deposition of Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. Liberals, religious, and secular students and Marxists united in the greatest popular insurgency ever seen in the country, the desire for revolution. The Iranian uprising brought a group of religious fundamentalists to power with an anti-Western discourse that influences that influences the region to these days. And as we saw earlier, it's much different from the old regime. It's completely different like path. In this victorious scenario, Sharia is added to this legal basis. Sharia is the juridical system. It basically is a guideline to Muslims that say what they must do with their lives. And it covers both of political and spiritual spheres. As you can see here, its object is to guide human beings in all areas of their lives, keeping them on the best path and giving them the means to accomplish what they need in the pursuit of their happiness. And if you look at this next slide, you'll see the methodology of our work and research. It's a research, it has an exploratory nature, qualitative approach, and use of bibliographic and documentary research and technique and context analysis. Basically, we use both of path, the books that take us through the entire history of what women represented for the Iran, and documentaries to show where they are today and how they got there. Here you can see the results of our work, and I will be starting with the topic, the face and the veil of the Islamic Revolution between tradition and modernity. To analyze any data, whether communicational, social, historical, it's necessary to consider the plots that intend those relations in order to develop an intersectional perspective of analysis. Women, in turn, they play a very important role against the Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. But even so, they begin to suffer many of restrictions of their effective implementation of the Islamic State. And here we can see some examples. They start to be obligated to cover their bodies, the use of the hijab becomes compulsory, and other prohibitions such as singing, riding a bicycle, swimming in public, and practice any sport with men. But it's important to emphasize that the hijab is not the woman's in Iran major concern. In other words, there are other, how can I say this? Okay, there are other topics, and it's important to emphasize that any woman who chooses to not to wear the hijab would see it as an enemy for the
for the revolution, even though, despite the fact that by the interpretation that many Muslims make of the Quran, their sacred book, wearing the hijab is not mandatory. In addition, therefore, the morality police is created. The morality police was basically a force that was created with object to inspect those public places and see if the population were following those rules. It was made most of women who supported, and those people who did not follow those rules, who did not obey, they began to suffer harassment, violence caused by men who supported the revolution and by police officers. However, it's necessary to emphasize that the hijab is far from society's or Iranian women's major concern. In other words, the hijab is not the only issue currently being discussed, and to focus exclusively on this topic would be such a narrow view. Protests beyond the veil. It starts with an extremely shocking and devastating case that recently broke through the media. On September 16, 2022, a wave of protests broke out in Iran after authorities announced the death of a 22-year-old Masha Amini. She was in prison. She was arrested in prison and died 3 days later after falling into a coma. Her family alleges that she was assaulted by police officers that with a truncheon like a bat, and they pushed her into one of the patrol cars. Since then, the protests have spread and gathered other demands, such as anti-compulsory hijab laws against the leaders of Iran and the entire clerical establishment, heralded as a female revolution in the conservative Middle East country. The media in Iran claims this is the most popular movement since 2019. The professor of political philosophy and rhetoric at the School of the Communication and Art, USP, Maria Fiorillo, says that the protests in Iran go far beyond the use of the veil, as they represent the uprising of an entire generation against the theocracy of the Ayatollahs, suffering the biggest shakeup since established 40 years ago. And turning our attention to the slide, as I quote, "The veil was just the spark that fired the deep and latent revolt of Iran society with unemployment, inflation, and the economic crisis that deepened thanks to the ex-President Trump when he unilaterally broke in 2018 the negotiations on the nuclear power agreement defended by Europeans and Iranian reformist politicians. The reaction was as expected, the defeat of the reformists and a hardening of the Iranian regime." Coming to the end of the presentation, we have the concluding remarks. Understanding the recent history of Iranian women beyond the political object allow us to see the resistance to institutionalized violence and fascism imposed on them, proving that this struggle is beyond Islamic beyond Islamic fundamentalist or imperialism. It's about how, regardless of the form of the government, women are only seen as means to an end. It takes more than the current protest to overthrow Khamenei's theocracy, the Revolutionary Guard, or the morality police, but showing the world the chaos, the chaotic situation, the regime's unpopularity, and the need for international support could be considered the beginning of a new history. So I end my presentation by saying how important it is for this history to be told, to be heard, to be talking about, and international relations could be the beginning of a new history. Thank you all.
All right, thank you, Ana Luisa. Wow, let me swallow. It's a very hard subject to bring upon. Violence, political violence to women, to the right of being. Justice. It's very hard. It brings me in my memory. I have lived for 2 years in Malaysia. So I lived abroad with my family, with my wife, and my wife suffered for not being Muslim. She had to cover herself, not only at the top of her head with the veil. It was not compulsory, since Malaysia is a country that actually coexists other religious practices, but still I felt under my skin the influence of such morality police. So I was once running at a park without it's just as hot as here. Malaysia is extremely hot. So I took off my shirt and I was in the side of park. And then I was stopped by an officer. He said, "Are you ready?" I couldn't understand. He was speaking Bahasa, Malay. But I did understand that either I put the shirt back or I would be arrested. That was clear to me. And my wife suffered other types of verbal aggression, or even the imposition of like being surrounded by motorcyclists. She was strolling our baby through the park, and then several teenagers start circling around her. I mean, just saying bad things, and she felt like a huge amount of fear. She was fearing for her life, for our daughter, because they were like pretending to be throwing stones at her because she was not wearing long sleeves or whatever. So that's and in that case, in Iran, it's like it's even worse. It's as you have brilliantly pointed during your presentation and your article. There's a deeper conflict under the symbolism of the veil. So there's far worse things to be uncovered. Not only the tradition or the religious aspect of it, not the religious, but the fundamentalism that is inherited in there and that's persisting against modernity, against the free will, against democracy, even not to be imposed, but to be respected. And then that's a subject. I believe that your article has gone from the introduction quite well, from the historical background. It's easy to read. It has data, facts, well pointed out, so you can understand the historic, and then there's the climax. There is a political change, and it becomes easy to understand why things are happening now. So if someone is not aware of what's happening there, and if they take 10 minutes to read your work, they will understand perfectly the curve. Oh, why is that women are cutting pieces of hair as a protest? So this is good because it goes in so few pages. It tells all the story and gives the context and finalizes with the call to action. I mean, bring awareness and let's talk about it and use international relations to help the economy or the people there, and especially women that are suffering at that stage. Actually, they have been suffering for a long time. And then to bring upon the real causes. So it's just about the religious, the fundamentalism, or the symbolism, but the economy and the society that's been like forgotten back in something that's not working in relation to the world. So it's something that's like an island. They're just stuck there in time and traditions that are no longer connected to explain the reality nowadays. So that's the tricky one, right? That's the conflict. How to bring along that. There's many other Muslim countries around the world, and they find a way to relate, not because of their belief, but how they relate to the international community better. And so it's a very good subject, and your article is well written. It's been well presented, and I encourage you to keep on that way. And your English is spotless. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Ana Luisa, congratulations. So complex subject. I think that you choose so well. And maybe, what do you, I like your presentation so clearly, you talk clearly as well, I like. And what do you think, what you can say to us about this connection, this link between religion, especially morality, and the woman? This argument used against the power of the women in a society. Looking for us, looking for our context, what do you feel? And what we can see?
Basically, uniting the politics with the religion is a very dangerous thing, because as I said before, wearing the hijab is technically not mandatory, but at the point where the politic and the religion is so close that it's not your choice anymore. At that point, they make a religion imposed to you that you don't have a choice. By people who visit there or people who don't have those beliefs, they're obligated to follow that, and that's a very dangerous path. As I say, that we have the need to separate the religion and the state, as we're trying to do here in Brazil, but then we see how clearly how so close it's very dangerous, because it caused this. We see the violence that the people who doesn't follow the religion ways, they suffer. They don't have the liberty to choose what they want to do, to choose how they want to dress, they want to represent themselves to the society. And so many women, they choose to follow that, they choose to wear the hijab, but the women who don't, they don't have a choice. And that's why it's so dangerous to mix up such important topics, such important things that influences society itself, because we are a society, we are a group, and the people sitting right next to me might not think what I do. And that's why I affirm that by our side of the Brazil, that we are trying to separate and seeing how dangerous it is on the way in other religion does this. It comes to a point that violence is so clearly seen. I think it's an important topic to discuss, and not only in Iran, but in all the world.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Ana Luisa, again, so much thankful for your choice of subject, and to bring again this discussion about religion and power. It's really dangerous when you want to bring religion to become law, it's in that moment that you take away the freedom, the democracy, the human rights. So, and as a woman, you can see that we are majorly a little bit more than half of the population. And when becomes the discussion to the rights, we still see so many differences in so much cultures about the rights or the equality that we wanted to see as human beings, not discriminated by gender. And here, I'm so suspicious to talk, but I'm going to bring SDGs. I felt the need that you could highlight the SDG 5 or 10 and bring the Agenda 2030 for your discussion also, because it is a subject that is all inclusive and all in that agenda. So, and it's in the major discussions all around the world. So you could highlight the Agenda 2030 in order to impulse and bring to the world using this tool, using also the agenda to highlight and to bring more awareness to your discussion, so important, so needed. And it's not just in Iran. We know this is an awful example, but so many other countries are still not using democracy and freedom as it should. And normally, we women are the last part. Those who live the disadvantage and all the discrimination. So I believe you don't stop there. You keep on developing your research, this theme, and please include the SDGs and 23rd agenda, okay? But I really congratulate you by your diction, your pronounce, very fluent, very clear. So very good job. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will add it, okay?
All right, last but not least, Thaisa Helena, please. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Can you hear me? Should I speak louder? It's okay? Okay, thank you. So, first of all, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to come here and discuss important themes. I'm going to be discussing reflective education and teacher education as study in the light of modernity. This research was developed alongside my colleague, Nonato. He's right there. Say hello, Nonato. Okay, where's it? I'm not sure how to use this. Down. Oh, okay. So, first things first, abstract. The present article has as its object of investigation teacher training, their trajectories and trends in the field of research and pedagogical action. The research in its essence sought to answer questions about the policies aimed at teacher training and their teaching practices in modernity. So the main focus is to discuss our current teaching practices and pedagogical action. Where did it came from? How is it going today? And the prospects to the future. Thus, the teachings of Cunha served as basis for the study, which deals with the topic of teacher training based on their trajectory and tendency in the field of research and in the pedagogical action itself. Diniz Pereira, which addresses the training of basic education teachers in contemporary Brazil, and Saul, which deals with Paulo Freire's contributions to the training of educators from their foundations and practices based on a counter-hegemonic paradigm. So when we talk about basic education, we mean school years education. We mean kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, which we know as infantil, Fundamental 1, Fundamental 2, ensino médio. We're going to be discussing a little about where the practice that we have today came from and how they are being developed today. The background of the article is to present reflections on teacher training, our current model, and the teacher practices, just as promote a better understanding of the past, present, and future of education. The authors that I mentioned talk about the importance of teaching practices as a way not only of teaching math or history or geography, like not just the subject itself, but education as a mean of forming capable citizens, forming people who are independent and capable of being political beings. For Freire, for Cunha, it is extremely important to have a reflective and systemized view of the teacher training process, because in different situations, research can make a significant contribution to the emancipatory educational process. So, as I mentioned, the importance of forming independent beings, people who are capable of having critical sense, For Freire, understanding the political dimension of education interfered a lot in the way of understanding the role of the teacher and therefore their training. So, methodology. We try to present a panoramic study, like a study that could be as broad as possible, that could give us as much information as we could collect. An article supported by a qualitative investigation of exploratory nature whose study field is teacher training. So the methodology was based on a survey and reading of relevant bibliographic and documentary material to the topic under study, whose literature will allow the analysis of the context of teacher training in accordance with the theoretical initially studied. For the collection of data from the teachers, it was decided to prepare a survey in order to obtain relevant information to the research process. So this reading and survey had as its object, it was made in order to have a clear view of our understanding of the role of the educator in society. So not just the educator as someone who goes to the school and teaches their subject, but as the educator as a political and social being. The results of the research, we have the author André. For him, the proposal to train research teachers has been the object of great discussions between researchers, teachers, trainers, and educational managers. We gather that because education is something that is so present, so important, we'll always have discussions. There will always be questions to be answered. There will always be points that we can improve. Like, the sky's the limit when it comes to education. I don't think there will ever come a day that the community will say, well, now we know everything there is to know about education. Still, according to the author, it is necessary to approach not only a reflective teacher, but reinforce the idea of a reflective school in which everyone responsible for the educational action participates in the actions in a dialogic posture that contemplates the pedagogical doing so that they can improve it each time more. So as I said, continuous study, continuous development, continuous improvements. For Demo, another author, our current model of teacher training lacks a structure that includes not only the theoretical part of learning, but an extensive practice that values its entire knowledge base. So for him, it is of major importance. It's very good that we discuss about the practical part of the learning, but it's not enough. It needs to be put into action. He says that we need to develop a model that includes more research, more teaching, and more extension projects on the panorama of teacher training, of how our teachers are being trained. Concluding, we gathered that the demands of teacher professionalization, given the questions and discussions about the performance, reopened purer reflections on their training at initial and even higher levels. The debate on teacher training has, according to Denise Pereira, over the 20 last years, since the approval of LDBEN, which it's short for Leis de Diretrizes e Bases da Educação Educacional, in português, points of convergence and tension. So in the last 20 years, we had much more discussions about education and methods and how this can be improved since the approval of these laws. It is necessary to think and rethink teacher training in a dialogical perspective and point out new directions, both for teacher training and for training courses, and nevertheless, qualify and value these professionals who make a difference in the fields of learning and in the field of education, plus the country's cultural enrichment. So we can conclude that it's very important not just to have a better teacher training, but we also need to include those teachers more when it comes to the, how can I say, the administrative matters, like decisions that are going to impact those teachers, that community. They need to be more active. They need to be invited to the discussion about their jobs, their role in society. We conclude that the applicability of the scientific knowledge in an educational context sometimes depends on the development of already appropriate understandings, which triggers rigor in the modes of investigation. We must keep in mind the importance of scientific production and its reliability in data processing so that we can leverage successes in various sectors of society. So it is very important that we never lose track, we never lose sight of the importance of the teacher and how important it is to have that teacher well trained, well prepared, so that they can prepare other beings, they can prepare children, can prepare young adults. So that's pretty much it. Those are the references. Thank you so much.
Okay, Thaisa, very good job, very good job. Very nicely said. Your English is really, really nice to listen to. You're speaking easily throughout the presentation. That's great, great, great. So regarding the essence, message is like straightforward. You keep reinforcing what your article is suggesting, pointing out, so it becomes very, very clear what you're suggesting, which direction the article is pointing. So this is extremely, there's a coherence between what you believe and what the text is asking people to do. So you're like, it supposes that I believe in what I'm writing, and it's like I'm showing the direction, and you're living that truth. The sense of, okay, it seems that you have had training to be a teacher.
I am a teacher.
So that's right. I was feeling something different. I said, okay, there's something in there. Okay, so that's why it came out so naturally, since you already are a teacher, and then you're just putting out your truth and making it in a very well reasonable way. So congratulations. And that would be the only question I would have, is why you chose the subject, but that's crystal clear now. You have already answered that one for me, and that's it. I would suggest that maybe you could use another case as well, so maybe you can compare another country. And I have worked back in Brasilia at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs at Itamaraty. I have worked there for a small time before jumping into the port industry, before moving towards this direction of production engineer, combining with diplomacy. And there's the bilateral cooperation programs that Brazil offers to other countries and also receives. There's a lot to be explored in that, a lot. So I really suggest that you include in your analysis those aspects of diplomacy regarding cooperation, the bilateral cooperation, and the role. So why don't we train teachers in Africa, and also both ways. Why don't we get trained by those countries that we support, that they also speak Portuguese? So what do we have to learn from each other in that international sense? I mean, learning overseas and making those exchange programs with that specific approach that you're proposing. Not only the content, but the teacher itself. I mean, the resourcefulness as a human being, as someone that will influence, that will be trained to be a factor of change. So that's something that I propose for you to maybe make those connections. You will see there's a lot of intel there. I hope you enjoy it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Thaisa. So good presentation. I like it a lot. And your view was so clear about this. You can spend hours here talking about the teacher training, but you showed some point, so important point of this context, okay? And you said that you are a teacher. I'm a teacher. Yeah. And in your conclusion, you told us about the importance that the teachers can see the value of the profession and can discuss and participate in the decisions. And do you think that we as teachers, that we see our value and our colleagues?
So, can you repeat the last part?
Do you think that we as teachers, we see our value or no?
That's tricky. Okay, as a community, I feel like there's still so much, like, I think people in general still do not see the value, the importance the teacher has. Like, I think people are still not fully awake to this, including their own teacher community. I think we sometimes let it out, we lose track of it sometimes because it is hard. It's not easy to be a teacher. We go through something that we have to laugh, otherwise we're going to cry. So I think that's a point that could be more explored, including the teacher community itself could wake up, could be more active, I think this would be very good for us.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
Thaisa, well done. It's such a pleasure to end this session with this discussion. So dear, I'm not a professor, I'm an engineer, but I had so many great professors that I cannot think about my professional path without think about them. They put that sparkle, they questioned me, they pushed me forward to be where I am. And I understand when you say we don't appreciate enough the value or the role of teachers in our lives. We are life learners. We are learning every day, every time we do something. We are going to be life learners for all our lives. But who puts the next generation? Who forms the next citizens generation? It's teachers, of course, father and mother, parents, but who gives the most time, who works with them, with the next generation, leading them to the good path with the good values, and not only professionally, but forming really citizens with what you said, with opinions, with thoughts, with ideas, it's teachers. And sometimes we really don't appreciate enough. I believe everyone has one or two teachers that when you make that question comes up in your mind. But we need to think that the most honorable profession is that one who forms other professions, which are teachers. So I really admire what you brought, the subject you brought. It's really a subject that we should think and should reflect, because we are in an academy. We are forming teachers, not just other professionals, but teachers. And they are going to learn all their lives and teach all their lives. So we need to improve the way we are forming these kind of professionals, because they need to be ready to form the next generation. So really, I agree with you when you say we need to put more attention and give more effort when we are training, when we are forming teachers, because they are the root of knowledge of all the other professions. So I just felt the need to put the SDG 4. We are in an academy. It's a subject about education. You could bring the Agenda 2030 also. Just a thought.
I will.
Okay? But excellent work in an excellent way to end this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have come to the end of this great experience. I believe we could maybe say some final words of encouragement for our students. So, and I would like to thank Professor Tales for the opportunity, for the experience, highly valuable. And then let's just address a few words of encouragement for you students. I myself, I have studied international relations. I studied in Brasilia at the UniCeub, and then I remember back then that I had no idea where I would arrive at my journey. So what I can and will say with all my truth and all my heart, it's an exploratory area of knowledge. To be a student of international relations is to embrace the exploratory aspect of it. I mean, you have to put yourself to experiment with all the fields. You will study about international law, international human rights, world economy, all those subjects. They are interconnected. So it's not straightforward. It will not lead you to a perfectly driven path. I mean, I want to study and become a diplomat. Yes, that's perfect. That's all right. I once had that drive. So, but by the time I got in there, before the actual for actually taking the test of the Rio Branco, before that, I realized that was not what I wanted for my career, because I was experimenting. I was trying all these disciplines and taking all the opportunities to be at presentations. And at that time, we had to be physically at the places. So by now, considering our world that's far more interconnected with all the resources, and so do take advantage of opportunities like these, and do write articles. Do not be afraid to put your face out, to put your name on the papers. Don't be afraid of that. Just embrace that. Explore. Write articles, not only when you're supposed to do because your teachers are asking, because it's something that the discipline or it's mandatory. Besides that, if you feel something is like, it's getting you like excited, just write about it. Submit to journals. Make your work, push it through. Send emails. Look for your post-graduation abroad, and just keep moving, keep exploring. It's an area of knowledge that it's inherited. It's within it. You have to accept that there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of areas to be explored. And through that exploration, through allowing yourselves to explore, to go beyond what the disciplines are asking, that you will find job opportunities, that you will create your job opportunities, that you will know people, that you will make your network larger with quality. And let's keep in mind that your network must be the high quality. So you will explore to find the right contacts. And one way of doing that is pushing articles through. Maybe you can invite someone to write with you from another country. You connect them. Oh, would you like to write an article with me? We can do this together. Why not? And this is, if you don't ask, you will never know. So do take advantage that our world is so well connected. So just move beyond that, and I'm sure you will meet a lot. You will meet, you exceed your expectation of happiness, of joy, of getting well paid. And then that's at least what I did to move across the fear of, oh my God, I don't know what I'm gonna do for a living. Because like, if I'm not a diplomat, then what can I do? Then I kept pushing. And then I did the master's in engineering, production engineer, but I used diplomacy, I used my roots in international relations every day, every single day. So it's really, really important. So keep exploring, move beyond what the course is asking, make connections, and be extremely detailed about your quality of your network. It's not about quantity, but if you're talking to the right person, those that believe what you believe, they want to change the world, they want to change, and start producing articles with them. And I'm sure you will fly. You're gonna find a lovely journey, and it's not an easy one, but it's not easy anywhere anyway. But then at least you're putting your sweat and blood into something you believe that makes you feel alive. So, and that's the best we can get. And after that, the results will be great. I'm pretty sure. So move ahead, keep going, and congratulations to you. I hope the best. All right.
Well, I learned a lot today. This morning was so happy for me, and I can see a brilliant future for each of you. And thanks, teacher, Professor Thales, for inviting me for this morning. Thanks for all of your presentations. I'm so happy. My only word is thanks for you.
So what can I give you of advice? I know today was just the first step. You felt fear, but don't let fear paralyze you. Instead, let it push you harder, push you forward. This is the opportunity you need to embrace and to grow professionally. Use all the tools you have in your power, in the academy, in your course, that allows you to grow as human beings and as a professional. The opportunity of being here and testing your abilities, your linguistic abilities, it's just one tool, but it could be the doorway for the world. The sky is the limit. You don't know what you are going to do in the future. So use every tools you have in your power to grow, to gain abilities, to enforce yourself, to try different things. Here, as we said, you have your safe net. Here you are safe, you can try. You can get it wrong 1, 2, 3 times, whatever. Here you can experiment, but use that in your power to grow and to become more aware human beings and professionals. So what can I say? I'm really thankful and grateful to be here, to watch this growth of you, to watch in this first step you trying, and I hope I'll be able to see you succeeding in next levels. So keep on, keep your faith, and good work. Thank you.
So, agora start speaking Portuguese. Then I have to, now we're going to start to record words to the audience that don't speak English or whatever. Okay? So I'm going to start speaking Portuguese. So, pessoal, esta manhã foi uma manhã para mim muito emocionante. Mexeu muito comigo. Tá? Por dois motivos. Porque dá para ver claramente que a Universidade Estadual do Maranhão, na sua pasta de internacionalização, ela está no caminho certo. Ela está caminhando no caminho certo. O segundo motivo é ver o avanço dos nossos estudantes, o interesse dos nossos estudantes nessa ação, procurando avançar internacionalmente, na sua qualidade de fala internacional, nas suas habilidades internacionais. E vocês mostraram por vocês mesmos que o que eu estou falando faz sentido. Um outro motivo foi ver também o envolvimento dos nossos professores. Essa aqui é uma única sala, com quanta emoção aconteceu aqui. Mas ocorreu uma outra sala, e uma outra sala está ocorrendo, são 3 salas ao mesmo tempo. Então, está o professor Alangi, Andréia Araújo e Marluz em uma sala, e tivemos uma outra sala com o professor José Ailson e Alangi. Andréa do Alimbe, perdão. Né? Então, assim, sem esse grupo, essa ação não seria possível. Tá? Eu preciso também registrar que em todas as reuniões que eu participo com outras instituições, eles elogiam muito a coragem que nós estamos tendo em realizar a sessão internacional, que na verdade estamos realizando pela 3ª vez. É a 3ª sessão internacional da UEMA, quando na verdade nós estamos pensando de uma maneira maior, que já temos, desde a 2ª sessão, estamos provocando as nossas instituições parceiras internacionais para enviarem seus discentes, para virem compor a nossa sessão, apresentando trabalhos em português ou em inglês. E vocês estão vendo aonde nós queremos chegar. Porque o que está acontecendo aqui é uma conferência internacional, mas ainda podemos ampliar ainda mais essa ação de apresentação de trabalhos, mas também ampliar os seus contatos internacionais do ambiente que poderá se tornar. Mas essa avalanche de emoção hoje pela manhã não parou por aí. Aí eu calmamente estou aqui assistindo, fazendo umas articulações que eu preciso estar fazendo, acompanhando, e recebo uma mensagem que temos uma discente aqui que participou de todas as edições da Sessão Internacional. Então, para professores tomarem conhecimento de uma informação dessa, se vida, se felicidade é isso, são esses pequenos momentos, então estou muito feliz nesse momento. Então, eu gostaria de convidar a Thalia, estudante do curso de Biologia, que participou de todas as edições da Sessão Internacional. Essa brave girl, essa garota corajosa, que nos honrasse com com o seu depoimento. O que representa estar participando dessa sessão internacional, das 3 sessões que você participou. Fique à vontade, seja Thalia. Tá? Muito obrigado.
Obrigada. Então, a primeira vez que eu participei foi em 2020, durante a pandemia. Aí eu tive a oportunidade de apresentar em inglês e, tipo, sempre tive muita vontade de fazer intercâmbio. E esse ano até participei de um programa fundado em Harvard, Aspire Leaders Program, e me tornei alumni, que é como se fosse embaixadora. Eu posso falar mais sobre o programa depois. Então, quando eu vi da sessão internacional lá em 2020, eu vi que era uma oportunidade que eu podia ter de já estar participando de alguma coisa internacional. Então, eu já tinha terminado o curso de inglês, mas sempre muito tímida e nervosa para falar inglês. Aí eu quis tentar enviar um trabalho e foi aprovado. Apresentei sobre minha iniciação científica, que era com peixes, com a professora Raimunda Fortes na época. Aí, quando foi no ano passado, eu vi que teve de novo. E dessa vez eu fiz um trabalho com aves, que é a área mesmo que eu estou agora, que eu gosto. E esse ano é meu último ano na UEMA, como graduanda. Então, eu vi a oportunidade de apresentar presencial e achei melhor ainda. E o que eu posso dizer é que todas as vezes foram experiências incríveis, que me ajudaram a ter mais confiança em falar inglês também, que me incentivaram a continuar nessa área e quero muito estudar fora. É isso.
Obrigado, Thalia. Obviamente, nós precisamos registrar esses momentos, né? Essas ações, elas vêm realmente para ficar. O EMA está fazendo história, seguindo o seu próprio caminho, né? Nós estamos avançando. E, mais uma vez, eu repito, tem uma sessão que ainda continua ocorrendo nesse momento. Eu gostaria de registrar mais uma vez que estamos com a presença dos nossos alunos do curso recém-criado, Bacharelado em Relações Internacionais, também estiveram aqui participando, né? Inclusive, temos uma monitora da nossa sessão internacional, ou do nosso Café Internacional, a Ana Luísa, que também faz parte do primeiro semestre do Bacharelado de Relações Internacionais, e foi isso, nós fizemos uma provocação, inclusive, para os alunos do bacharelado, venham e apresentem temáticas em relações internacionais, e eles aceitaram o desafio, né? Então, tem sido um momento de grandes trocas, aprendizados, né, para todos nós, inclusive para nós, professores. Então, com isso, se todos estiverem de acordo, eu finalizo essa primeira parte da manhã, do segundo dia da 8ª edição do Café Internacional da UEMA. E lembro a todos que a partir das 2 horas teremos mais 2 apresentações, uma das experiências exitosas da UEMA-NET, a nossa coordenação de educação, de núcleo de tecnologias para a educação, será apresentada pela professora doutora Ilka Serra. E, na sequência, às 15 horas, recomendo e chamo, clamo a presença de todos para virem assistir também ao palestra-treinamento do professor Edson Canella, representante da ITS no Brasil, passando técnicas, dicas de como fazer um TOEFL, né, um exame de proficiência de língua inglesa de uma maneira satisfatória. Com isso, obrigado a todos mais uma vez e até mais.